Welcome to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channel and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, True Weight Solutions, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, SCED, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, and Prime Spine Consulting. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 290 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your co-host, Luke Millett, and here's your host, Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Peter Goldman. And if you want to know about the power of chiropractic, stay tuned. All right. Welcome to another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. This is episode 290. Today we have a good friend of ours, Dr. Pete Goldman, coming in from new zone of genius. We'll let him talk about that if he chooses to. Luke is coming in from the beautiful state of Michigan. I think it's, what do they call it? Lakes, the city of lakes, or the state of lakes?
They call it Detroit Rock City.
Detroit Rock City. There you go. And I'm coming from Grand Junction, which is on the western slope of Colorado, which we call the beautiful state of Grand Junction, our city of Grand Junction. So without any further, I just want to welcome Dr. Pete on. I think it's like his 112th interview with Chiro Hustle, maybe his 12th, but welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I haven't been on your show in a while, and I always enjoy being on your show. So let's kick it off.
Yeah. So before we do kick it off, I just want to assure our audience that the reason Chiro Hustle is charging hard the way that we do is because we do protect free speech in chiropractic, and we do protect the sacred trust, and we do hold near and dear to the future of chiropractic with its philosophy of subluxation-based chiropractic conversation. So with that being said, let's talk about that, Pete. Let's talk a little bit about subluxation-based chiropractic for people that might not get the big idea.
Sure. Well, I have a couple of things to say about that. Well, first, more of a definition of subluxation-based chiropractic, which I don't think many of the people watching need to know, are unaware of, but I'll just say a subluxation-based chiropractor is someone who, despite symptoms, despite diagnoses, despite anything along those lines, is examining the spine, most likely between occiput and coccyx, and they're examining the spine in some kind of way, whether it's a static palpation, motion palpation, an X-ray, or some people say you can't actually find subluxations on X-ray, but whatever, maybe an indication. Maybe they do leg checks, maybe they do muscle tests, maybe they do activator protocol, SOT protocol, whatever. They are trying to find misalignments in the spine, which are known as subluxations, when they supposedly are putting pressure on a nerve, and they're trying to relieve those subluxations. That is the idea for a subluxation-based chiropractor, and it has a lot of merit to it. So that would be a working definition of that, which I think all chiropractors would agree with, or at least most. And of course, I have my own thoughts about that separately of that, but I think that's a pretty good definition of it.
Okay, so that's perfect. So let's bring them to the zone technique that you created the school for, and teaching people how to do zone technique. So how would you give the definition of that to your zonies?
Well, I would say this, there's a physical level of healing in a chiropractic exchange between a chiropractor and a patient. And there's a metaphysical level of healing between a chiropractor and a patient. Now, on a physical level, let's just talk physical since you asked about the zones. On a physical level, a subluxation-based chiropractor most likely believes that the brain up here is sending proper signals down the cord. And then if there's interference with that signal from subluxation, that brain signal is going in an interfered with way to some cell in the body. Could be a cell of an organ, could be a cell of a muscle. So they want to find out where those subluxations are, put them in place, put the bones back in place so the subluxation is relieved, and then that brain signal can go down from the brain down the cord through that IVF to the cell in question. That's kind of called the safety pin cycle. What zone technique says is, on a physical level, I haven't even touched on the metaphysical. What zone technique says on the physical level is, what if the brain is imbalanced in the first place? Like, what if the brain is unbalanced? So then you relieve the subluxation supposedly, but who cares? Because all you've done is opened up a faulty brain signal to some cell in the body. So the zone technique has a way through occipital fiber palpation, which has nothing to do with SOT, by the way. Nothing against SOT. SOT is awesome, but they do have some occipital fiber palpation, which is completely different, and I can explain why it's different if anyone's interested. With that said, we feel the points in the back of the head. We know what's happening in the brain and where the brain centers are faulty, and we reset the brain centers. How? By looking at the body like an electrical machine, meaning that the brain is the positive pole, the cord is the negative pole. We stimulate the cord. You can do it with a chiropractic adjustment, a hard adjustment, a soft adjustment, an activator, instrument, whatever you want. We stimulate the cord in specific places to reset the brain. Now the brain is healed, sends the proper signals, and people heal. Now, that's just the physical aspect of the zone technique. The zone technique has a very intricate metaphysical aspect. Now, a lot of chiropractors who have lived, and a lot of the greats, B.J. Palmer, D.D. Palmer, Clarence Gonstead, the list goes on, have inadvertently tapped into the metaphysical principles which are taught in zone school. Pasquale Sarasoli, he's one of the greatest chiropractors ever. If you listen to him talk, was he was partially and inadvertently tapping into the metaphysical principles taught in zone school, which is one of the reasons that he got spectacular results. Now, a lot of chiropractors talk about specificity, and I'm not saying specificity is good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not even going to talk about that unless you want to. But with that said, look at, there's a YouTube video of Pasquale Sarasoli adjusting someone, and it's the most non-specific adjustment you've ever seen. Again, I'm not saying that's good or bad, but he pretty much starts at the sacrum and just cracks, with no analysis whatsoever that I saw from the sacrum to T1, does 2 side postures with no analysis, and cracks both sides of the neck with no analysis. Now, I'm a big fan of Pasquale Sarasoli because his results are spectacular, and he had a very deep philosophy. He was kind of a DD disciple, very deep philosophy of chiropractic, and the vibration that created tapped into certain metaphysical principles, which created the amazing healings, because it certainly wasn't his specificity. You've heard of the flying 7. He was giving everyone a flying 60. And again, I don't say that as a negative thing. I'm just pointing out the obvious. Go check out YouTube and watch him adjust. And by the way, at the end of the adjustment, someone said, "Oh, Pasquale, is that what everyone got?" Yeah, it's what everyone got. So everyone just got the same thing, basically. And his results were spectacular because of his very strong belief. And that very strong belief, like I said, inadvertently tapped into principles which are taught specifically in zone school. And anyone who's interested could just go to zonetechnique.com, zonetechnique.com. They can learn about zone school. They can enroll in zone school. And if someone's just ready to enroll, but they're not, I'm not sure, I have a couple questions, there's actually a button on the homepage on zonetechnique.com to sign up for a free, what's called the discovery call. And we have one of our zone docs, Dr. Nate. Dr. Nate gets on with them and answers their questions. And if they want to join, they can join. If they don't want to join, they don't have to join. But anyway, that is what I would say about zone technique. On a physical level, healing the brain, and on a metaphysical level, understand how to interact in a certain way to create these great healings.
Well, I think I'm going to go to the website just to connect with the discovery call, just to chat with Dr. Nate.
Good. Listen, a lot of people want to do that. Nate is such a popular dude and so fun to chat with that I can understand why people would do that.
Yeah, I have to say the flying 60 is my favorite technique.
Good. I'll do it. I'll jump on your back,
No, actually, it's funny. Zone technique is actually my favorite, and it's always like awesome.
Everyone heard that freaking Luke Millette. I mean,
it is.
There's nothing even to talk about after that. Just end the interview right now.
Yeah.
Okay. He's been around. He says the zone technique's his favorite. I love it.
All right. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Yes, I'm going to put that on the Zone School website. Zone technique is my favorite technique. Luke Millette. I've interviewed.
Chiro Hustle.
Yeah, quote me. So, I'm always pleasantly surprised when, we find a local chiropractor who knows the zone technique. But what I want to know is if another doctor wants to adopt the zone technique in their office, how long does it take? Does it cost anything? Do they get like an official certification? Like maybe you could go a deeper dive into the actual like process of training and implementing it in their
Well,
office?
great question. You said, how much does it cost? It costs $2,000, $19.97. So anyone who wants to join Zone School, go to zonetechnique.com, click it, you pay $2,000 and you get 50. That's 50 hours of me teaching you. You can watch 10 minutes a day or 2 hours a day or go through it how you want. That's the first question. Second question, I think I'm getting these proper in order. The second question was, how long does it take to learn? Well, it's interesting. We have a private Facebook group only for Zone School members. And when you join Zone School, you can join this private Facebook group. When you join the private Facebook group, you'll notice some pretty interesting posts. Like someone's like, hey, I just joined 4 days ago. I've just been watching these videos for 4 days. And I tried it on the first day in my office, and I'm already seeing miraculous healings, which I never saw before. So some people just learn it quickly. Then there are some people who, they go through it and it takes them, they do 45 minutes a day. And, 3 months later, they're like, yeah, I'm getting way better results than ever. So that's the second thing. How long does it take? And the last thing is, how do you find a certified? Oh yeah. How do you get certified? After you've been through the program, we have a certification process where you set up a certification call with me. I get on the phone with you. I make sure you know what's going on. And then you become a certified zone practitioner. And if you go to, again, zonetechnique.com and click on directory, you'll see a list of certified practitioners with some details in there. I'll just add one thing when I said about how long it takes. One thing that I really love, and listen, obviously in the position I'm in, having created Zone School and having over 1,000 members, growing quickly, I have all kinds of interactions with the Zone School members. And obviously, some are more gratifying than others. But there's two things that I really like that pop out to me when Luke said to me, like, how long does it take or whatever. We have probably, of the 1,000 Zone School members, I don't know, I'm going to say about 100 chiropractors who've been practicing over 40 years. Probably about, it could be 90, it could be 115. But about 100 chiropractors practicing 40 years, 43 years, 45 years. And what I've heard again and again and again is this, and it's very gratifying. Hey, Dr. Pete, I practiced for 43 years. I mean, I wasn't like struggling. I practiced successfully for 45 years. And listen, you practice 43, 45 years, you practice long enough, you're going to get your miracles here and there. So they're having a great practice, helping a lot of people, even getting some miracles here and there. You practice 45 years, you're going to get a few. And they say, Pete, I've been in Zone School for 8 weeks. 8 weeks. And I realized that all the stuff I knew before was like kindergarten level of knowledge. So I'm not saying it. This is not Dr. Pete quote. I'm not saying everything you know is kindergarten. That's their saying. I'm just quoting these 40 plus year docs. That's the first thing that's very gratifying about what Zone School members are experiencing. The second thing that's gratifying, it's a similar punchline, but a slightly different beginning. And I'm going to tell you what that is. What I hear a lot is someone says, hey, Pete, I've been in Zone School for 10 weeks or whatever. I was a really good AK doc, really good. Or I was a really good functional medicine doc, or I was a really good chiropractic neurologist, or I was a high-level SOT doc, or high-level Gonstead or CBP. And again, I've been in Zone School 10 weeks. I feel like all that stuff that I knew about healing was like kindergarten. Again, I'm not saying it. They're saying it. It's very gratifying to see these people who were fairly accomplished, either because they practiced 40 years and or because they were an expert at some technique, telling me that. Even instructors of these techniques. Someone's like, yeah, I was an AK instructor. I was one of the most prominent AK instructors in the country. And then they're telling me that. So, Luke, when you ask how long does it take to become proficient, the corollary, if that's the proper word, I'll have to check with Jim, but if that's the proper word, the corollary to that story, or is it the epilogue? I don't know, is that not only did these guys and girls become proficient, it's kind of cool when they're like, they tell me that also about the level of knowledge that they've been able to achieve in Zone School and applying it so they're getting results that they've never got before. And I'll just kind of conclude this answer with this. When someone, like I said, you practice 10, 20, 30, 40 years, you're just enough people, you get your miracles here and there. But when people join Zone School and they get this knowledge, and then day in and day out, they're helping people they never could have helped before. Again, not my quote, their quote. They're telling me, hey, Pete, I've been in Zone School for 6 months. They're telling me I have helped people I never would have been capable of helping before because of this knowledge. So that's really gratifying.
So one more thing I wanted to touch in on is there's this book.
Yeah, man.
That you were nice enough to give us copies of. So Zone was developed by Dr. Thurman Fleet, and something I've been curious to know. Is there anything that you've learned from Thurman Fleet that you've maybe evolved or changed or updated? Like, is there
First of all-
anything that
first of
he
all-
could learn from you?
Let's get that a second. I doubt it. That guy was the grandmaster of all grandmasters. I think Dr. Thurman Fleet was not only the greatest chiropractor who ever lived, I think he's one of the greatest healers of the last 2,000 years, period. Dr. Thurman Fleet was a chiropractor. He practiced in San Antonio, Texas in the 30s, 40s, 50s, etc. When he was open for business, the police had to reroute traffic patterns in order to accommodate the people coming to his office. People would come to him with diseases that 99% of chiropractors wouldn't even begin to know where to start with, and he was just wrapping them up like this. I mean, the guy was a spectacular healing genius. He did create zone therapy in 1931. In 1993, 4 of his disciples outside of school, this is not taught in school, started teaching me zone therapy, which I learned. I learned zone therapy. I've also had many other influences in healing, metaphysics, etc. From the zone therapy, from the teachings of Dr. Fleet, from many other metaphysical sources, many other healing sources, I slightly altered zone therapy and made zone technique, which is a big part of zone school. Zone school is like this. Here's zone technique, and the rest are the principles of healing. So that's the answer to the first part of your question. Do I think I could teach anything to Dr. Fleet? Probably not. I only say probably not because his results were so unparalleled. I feel like I have discovered some things which, if he was alive, I'd like to tell him. And I think he'd be like, man, that's really cool. Because I think I'm just about positive he would say it's really cool. But would he apply it? Probably he wouldn't have to, because his results were so insanely great. I don't think he'd have to. But would I think he respect them and see that they could lead to great results, which they do? Yes, I think he would. And I love the guy.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, True Weight Solutions, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, SCED, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, and Prime Spine Consulting. Let's hustle.
Well, only thing I would ask of you is to introduce Luke and I to him.
He was born 1895.
Well, you said some poignant stuff there. And one of the things that I want to, kind of angle back towards is you said this word disciple. And that's it's biblical. And it means that people learn and then they go out there and they take that knowledge and they pass it on to other people. And then they bring up the next generation and teach more people. And hopefully they become proficient enough that they can retain that knowledge and teach more people. And that's been chiropractic. That's been chiropractic from the first chiropractor, D.D. Palmer, and that passed on to his son, B.J. Palmer. And I have a few deep things I like to talk to you about. One of those is I'll get to it towards the end of the interview, which is it's the DD or BJ. But what you're telling me is that Fleet was a disciple of BJ.
No, actually DD.
Oh, he was a disciple of DD.
DD Palmer taught a guy named Dr. Jim Drain. Dr. Jim Drain was the president of Texas Chiropractic College in the 1920s. Dr. Fleet became a disciple of Jim Drain. So Dr. Fleet is of the DD lineage, not the BJ lineage.
Okay.
As it happened, because Dr. Fleet surpassed Jim Drain quit his post as president of Texas Chiropractic and then learned from Fleet, his former student, and started teaching around the country with Dr. Fleet. Now, BJ had nothing to do with any of this.
Okay.
None whatsoever.
No, that was an interesting core question for me, because at the end I'm going to ask you to give more clarity on DD or BJ. But in the interim, let's discuss this. Like I opened up our segment today saying that Chiro Hustle protects free speech in chiropractic. And that means something to me. Like if we didn't do anything else the rest of our existences, I would be so proud of that just one statement. And why is that so important to chiropractors that there's a platform like what we carry on for people to speak expressively about natural healing and about chiropractic and about chiropractic philosophy, about chiropractic art, and about the, as we call them, miracles, if they've been doing it for 1 day or 43 years. That is such an anchor statement for chiropractic. And I find, from our work, it's we've had a lot of support, but I feel like there should be a little bit of an uptick in people right now, specifically saying those guys over there at that little podcast called Chiro Hustle are actually producing some of the realest truth in the chiropractic profession that's ever been done and documenting it well and consistently. So free speech in chiropractic, what does that mean to you?
Well, I think I like what you said. And my response to what you said is, imagine your average chiropractor that believes what they believe. What are they going to go to their kids' school and chat with the other parents? I don't think it's going to land very well. They may on some. What are they going to go to a family reunion and talk about what they believe? I don't think it's going to land very well. Are they going to go to their, whatever they're involved in their
golfing?
Yeah, chat with their, are they going to no? Are they going to just be at Whole Foods shopping and just be online and tell the person next to them? These things don't land well. It's comforting. It's physically and emotionally comforting when you can sit and just say these things, not so much because the person's going to agree with you, but at least they will listen to you in a peaceful, respectful way. Now, you would think it would be nice if our society was set up where when you talk, people would peacefully and respectfully listen to you. It doesn't seem like life is set up like that at the moment for most. So I think it's just nice when someone sits in this seat I'm sitting in, like any guest you have, and you're giving them this opportunity to just, in a comfortable, loving atmosphere, talk about what they
download their freedom
want to talk about. So that's what I think. Of course, you gave a bigger picture of it, but I think even on the most basic human level, it's nice when someone
is interested in your story,
interested, and there's a pleasant atmosphere to express it.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate you seeing that and what we do. So many people don't understand. I meet people in professional circles, or I'll just meet somebody in random and they'll ask me what I do. And I say, I run a podcast. And it's almost unfathomable to them that somebody can have something that they really appreciate doing with a sector of the world that they've become very familiar with, and be able to have opportunity to nurture the narrative and to make sure that it doesn't get bought and sold. And when people get a chance to meet me, they're like, so why chiropractic? And I have to retool them back to my upbringing. I have to retool them into my athletic excellence. I have to retool them into my career choice. And then I get to retool them into what's the potential and why it's essential for these light healers, these group of people that heal with their hands, that are basically artists that don't get enough credit for what they do. And people have regulated them to neck pain and back pain therapists.
When you mentioned neck and back pain, this is the founder of chiropractic. No one knows more than D.D. Palmer about chiropractic because he invented it. So anyone can come after D.D. Palmer and say whatever they want, and maybe what they say is valuable. It could be, but no one can actually define what chiropractic is and what it isn't besides D.D. Palmer. And it's interesting, if you go into my office and you ask everyone in the waiting room, why are you here? Why are you here to see Dr. Pete? They'll tell you they're there for their digestion, their circulation, their liver, their gallbladder, their uterus, their ovaries. They'll tell you they came because they had panic attacks or anxiety, or they couldn't breathe properly, or they had a thyroid problem. And probably 15% or so of my patients will say they came for neck or back pain. Now, 99% of chiropractors, no matter what they say about the power that made the body heals the body, whatever, you go in their office and you ask everyone what they're there for. They're there for neck and back pain. Now, with that said, then you'll hear some chiropractors say, chiropractic's for much more than neck and back pain. Yeah, but you know what? See this book here? This book is This book is
1914.
This book is over 1,000 pages, like 103 pages with the index. This book is not a book saying, oh, chiropractics for neck and back pain, but it's for so much more. You can't even barely find neck and back pain in this book. D.D. Palmer talked about chiropractic as being able to help the body heal from pretty much anything outside of emergency medicine. And then on a side note, it's a side note. He's like, oh, and by the way, if someone has neck or back pain, it could help with that too. I think he calls it, more older terms like torticollis and Ryeneck and things like that. It was more like the lingo of the time in 1910 when this book was written. But yeah, chiropractic actually is not about neck and back pain at all. It just happens that if someone has neck and back pain, it's a great way to address it. It's like a side note. So you mentioned that. I just wanted to
yeah. Well, we live in a modern mechanistic society that we want to find a reason why our hinges aren't working.
Good analogy. I like that, Jim. I like that.
So here's a new question that Jim came up with a little while ago. I love it. If you were the last chiropractor on earth, would the profession survive?
I'll give you a three-part answer. One is I have no idea. Two is it would survive if chiropractors were smart enough to listen to what I'm explaining and teaching them. But what I tell you, what would happen, a ton of people would keep healing because, chiropractors are not. Human beings who are suffering would come to me and heal. That I have covered.
Well, I guess the other part to this is how do we prevent chiropractors from being controlled by medical tyranny and being put into the same box as all the other sick care providers?
Again, I'll answer the same. I'll start by answering part one is I don't know. Part two, it's a great question, Jim. I'm not minimizing that question. It's a great question. I just don't know. All I can do every day is do the best I can in this world with the knowledge I have. That's all I can do. My dad, I guess everyone loves their dad, or some people don't love their dad, but I'm just making the point that I was blessed, or I am blessed with just a spectacular father who's 93 now, by the way. He's 93.
Amen.
With that said, my dad was a very, very successful dude. Very, very. And he always maintained just being a nice guy. He was just always nice. He's just a kind person who was very nice to people, pretty much always. In fact, me and my sister sometimes talk. We're like, how do we get such a nice dad? Like, how did that happen? Anyway, so, but with that said, my dad would always tell me, Pete, just do the best you can. He told me all the time, just do the best you can. And it's great advice. So in other words, I have a level of knowledge of healing, which I apply and I also teach. And I'm just doing the best I can every day. What else can I do? So I'm doing the best I can and doing it day to day. And how things play out. Well, I think you mentioned, well, I don't know if you mentioned it, maybe just in my head, but if someone unless someone's an atheist, which is fine, you could be an atheist, there's no problem. But if someone believes in God at all, it says in pretty much every religion, well, at least every Western religion, that God is all powerful. Everything happens according to the will of God. It's in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. I'm not sure about Hinduism and Buddhism and the Eastern religions, but in all the Western religions, it says that God's all powerful. Nothing happens unless God wills it. So if that's so, then I'll let God run the world. I'll just do the best I can every day, and I'll let God take care of the rest.
Amen, brother. I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it.
So out of curiosity, of all the times you've been on Chiro Hustle, is there anything that we never asked you that you wished we asked you?
All the times I've been in Chiro Hustle, no, I think you guys are actually great interviewers. I've never left an interview thinking like, man, I wish I would have covered this, because one of the aspects of you being great interviewers, I think on many of the interviews, you might have said like, hey, Pete, anything else you want to mention or whatever. So in case you didn't ask me some subject I was just really enthused to talk about, you always gave me the opportunity to do that.
Well, I'm going to take this opportunity to just glean a little bit of light on Luke. And the reason that it works so well is because he's a professional. And I get to sit side by side by a real professional. And to me, that's an honor. And to have done over 1,000 shows with that guy, and your episode being number 290 of our actually produced shows, it's been quite the enthusiastic ride for me to be able to deliver chiropractic truth, to protect the sacred trust, which is delivering chiropractors to share their truth and to be unbiased to anything, and to just share what somebody thinks is knowledge based on what gives them their value of being a natural healer with their hands. And that's the essence of chiropractic. So to be able to sit side by side and to co-run this mission with Luke, it's been so honorable. And to have him come out and say, you know what, whenever I can find a zone practitioner, that's the guy or gal I want to go seek out to take care of me and my nervous system, to take care of me and my human performance, to take care of me and my, innate intelligence, so I can live healthy. And that's not a misnomer for a guy that never knew what chiropractic was until 13 years ago when he met me.
I'll actually give a little unsolicited.
Maybe that's 12 years ago or 11. I don't know. But Luke and I have been working together for over a decade.
I'll give a little unsolicited compliment to the two of you. You know, when you see someone, on a camera or a movie, if they're a movie star, or a TV, if they're a sports star, and then you meet them, the experience could be how it is. Like, you could be like, wow, like they're even nicer in person. Or you might be like, man, they're really personable on a screen, but when you meet them, they're really not what I expected or whatever. Now, I have had the opportunity to adjust many, 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 many professional athletes, elite level professional athletes, and a few A-list movie stars. And I've had, different experiences with them and whatever. And I want to say, like, when I met you guys in person, when you visited me, I was like, these are just two nice guys. Like, it's not like the cameras start rolling and they put on some kind of persona. I'm like, these are two genuine, sincere, nice dudes. So there's a little, I'll just add to Jim's thing.
No, thank you both very much. It's an honor to be a part of it, and I'm happy to be here. And just fun fact, I looked it up. This is only your second official episode on the podcast. So.
But I've done so many offshoot one-on-ones with Pete.
Yeah, you've done offshoots with them. But let's start to wrap things up now. Dr. Pete, thank you so much for being our guest again. The website is zonetechnique.com. Where else can people go? Any Facebook,
here's the deal. Instagram? Speaking of Instagram, for any of you MMA fans out there, mixed martial arts, UFC, Nick Diaz is a very famous guy. He's my patient. And if you go to Nick Diaz's Instagram, not mine, go to Nick Diaz's Instagram, which has 1.7 million followers. He made a nice post yesterday about me. Take a look. So there's a little Instagram thing for you to check out. And if you want to see my Instagram, I don't have 1.7 million followers like my boy Nick Diaz, but you can go to @the THESF, like San Francisco, Goldman, like my last name. That's my Instagram, @the SF Goldman. Most importantly, zonetechnique.com. Find out about Zone School, join Zone School, or set up a discovery call.
Yeah, and in closing, I just want to thank you for the last time that we were able to come out and do some production work and some promotion work for the Zone Technique out there in Denver. So thank you for the opportunity to be there with you guys too.
You did an amazing job.
Thank you.
And I'll ask you a question about BJ versus Didi, because you did.
Let's do it. Let's close out with that.
So first of all, let me say this. At the end of the day, I'm all about results. So let's just say, before I even say my opinion, let's just say that someone someone loves BJ. They have all the BJ Green books, they read it, and it really helps them. Let's say they were a sad person. They were sad, and they read BJ, and it gave them confidence, and it gave them enthusiasm, and it made them happy. Well, then I love BJ. Good for you. Or let's say someone had a struggling practice, and they read BJ, and they read BJ, and they read BJ, and their practice got great because of what they gleaned from BJ's writing. Good, I love it. I like results. Results are results. With that said, since you're asking me, I would take Didi on his worst day ahead of BJ on his best day. Now, with that said, in this book, 1910, Didi Palmer said, I adjusted Harvey Lillard's T4, thoracic 4, and his hearing came back. Later on, BJ Palmer said, no, it was C2. I think he said C2. He was pushing the upper cervical agenda. And then D.D. Palmer replied in one of his books, said B.J. Palmer was, I don't know, well, he was 8 years old in the room. I guess he was in the room. He was taking care of him that day. He was looking across the room as an 8-year-old. Really? He's telling me it was C2. I think I'm the founder. So I already don't love that. 1. 2 is B.J. Palmer hated Dr. Fleet because he was jealous of him because he got better results. I don't like that. 3, B.J. Palmer wrote a letter to every chiropractor. I forgot the year. I think it was around 1908, but don't quote me on that. And he told everyone to send back their copy of Chiropractor's Adjuster, his father's, and he burnt them. You can look it up. It's in chiropractic history. He burnt them, and he sent out one of his books. He was trying to rewrite chiropractic history. So, no, I'm not a fan of his. And I love DD. Not a fan of BJ at all. But that's just the answer to your question because you asked it. I will say again what I said, though. I like results, man. If someone has got a lot of comfort and knowledge and wisdom and happiness and success from reading B.J. Palmer, good. I think it's great. Sincerely, I'm not just saying that as a consolation statement. I do. It's just that you asked me a question, so I gave you an answer. Mm-hmm. But yeah, someone loves B.J., good luck. Great.
All right. I think on that, we will close out today's episode. Dr. Pete, thank you so much for being our guest again today.
Time flew by. I loved it. Yeah. Chiropractors, join Zone School. You'll thank me.
And if you're watching this and you got this far in the interview, check us out at chirohustle.com and get all of your chiropractic information and support us, please, because without your support, Luke and I, it's less fun. So let's just keep on having more. Let's have more fun together with the support of the chiropractic profession. And Dr. Pete, we love you, brother. Amen to your message today. And let's keep pushing forward and doing great work together.
Love you guys. Thanks for everything.
All right.
And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.